The corporate office buzzed with activity as employees rushed around in crisp suits. But when a young black woman walked in, wearing simple business casual attire, the CEO barely glanced at her before smirking. "Oh, great," he muttered under his breath. "Another diversity hire who probably doesn't know what she's doing." He had no idea that the woman he just insulted was his new boss. And when the truth came out, he would never forget this day. Before we go any further, subscribe to the channel and comment below where you are watching from. For our returning subscribers, thank you so much for your unwavering support. It truly means a lot to our community. Vanessa Williams walked into the building she owned, but today, she wasn't arriving as the CEO. She had come undercover, dressed as a regular employee, because she had heard rumors that some of her top executives looked down on employees who didn't fit their corporate image. And now, she was about to see it for herself. What she didn't expect was just how bad it was. From the moment Vanessa stepped into the office, the tension was thick in the air. Most employees were polite, nodding or offering small smiles. But one man, the CEO, Richard Calloway, made it very clear how he felt about her. He didn't shake her hand, even though he greeted others warmly. He barely looked at her, as if she wasn't worth his attention. And worst of all, he made sure she knew it. "So you're the new assistant?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Vanessa tilted her head. "Actually, Look, just do what you're told, okay?" Richard interrupted, waving her off. "Try not to mess things up. This isn't some charity program, this is real business." Vanessa felt her jaw tighten. She had seen arrogance before. But this was next level. As the day went on, Richard made no effort to hide his disrespect. He made her fetch coffee, even though she wasn't a secretary. He dismissed her ideas in meetings, without even listening. He even joked about her in front of other executives. "This generation just expects handouts," he scoffed. "They don't want to earn anything." Vanessa kept her cool. She could have exposed him right then and there, but she wanted to see just how deep his arrogance ran. And it didn't take long for him to dig his own grave. At the end of the day, Richard was talking with a few board members in the main office. Vanessa was nearby, organizing some files. That's when she heard it. "Honestly, I don't even know why we waste time hiring people like her," Richard said loudly, not realizing she was listening. One of the board members looked uneasy. "What do you mean, people like her?" Richard chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "Oh, you know, the ones who get hired just to fill a quota. No real skills, no real talent just here so the company can look inclusive." Vanessa froze. The audacity, the ignorance, the absolute disrespect. She took a deep breath, because he had no idea that she was about to shatter his entire world. Vanessa took a deep breath, steadying herself. This was it. She had given Richard every chance to prove himself, to treat people with respect, regardless of their background. But instead, he had doubled down on his arrogance. And now, it was time for him to face reality. The room was quiet, the weight of Richard's words still hanging in the air. Vanessa calmly set the files down and turned toward him. "That is an interesting perspective, Mr. Calloway," she said, her voice even and composed. Richard barely spared her a glance. "Oh, look, the assistant speaks," he scoffed. "Do you have a problem with something I said?" Vanessa took a step closer, her presence commanding attention. "Actually, I do," she said. "You assume that I am unqualified, that I am here as part of some diversity quota. But tell me, Mr. Calloway, do you always make such careless assumptions about the people around you?" Richard rolled his eyes. "Listen, sweetheart, I do not have time for a lecture. Some of us actually have companies to run." Vanessa smirked. "Oh, I know." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small keycard that only executives had access to. Then, she casually placed it on the conference table in front of him. Richard frowned, picking it up. His eyes scanned the name. Vanessa Williams, owner and majority shareholder, Williams Global Enterprises. His smirk vanished. His face drained of color, because Vanessa Williams was the sole owner of the company. His boss the same woman he had been mocking all day. The room fell into stunned silence. Richard shot up from his chair, his arrogant demeanor shattering instantly. Wait, this has to be some kind of mistake, he stammered. The board members exchanged, knowing glances. Some of them had suspected who Vanessa was, but had stayed quiet to see how things would unfold. No mistake, Mr. Calloway, Vanessa said, crossing her arms. I bought this company last year. I am the sole owner, and I have been listening to your leadership style all day. Richard swallowed hard, panic setting in. Vanessa Williams, I didn't mean any of that. It was just office banter. Vanessa tilted her head, unimpressed. Oh, so when you dismissed me, belittled me, and called me unqualified in front of my employees, that was just banter? Richard nodded quickly, his forehead dotted with sweat. Yes, it was just a misunderstanding. Let's be reasonable here. Vanessa's smile didn't reach her eyes. Oh, I am being very reasonable. That is why I will give you a choice. Richard's eyes flickered with hope, until she continued. You can either resign immediately, she paused, or I can fire you and make sure no company will ever hire you again. Richard staggered back, his hands shaking. This couldn't be happening. He had spent years climbing the corporate ladder. And now, in a matter of minutes, it was all falling apart. The other employees in the room were watching closely, and for the first time, they respected their CEO. Because Vanessa hadn't come in flaunting her title. She had observed, listened, and waited. And when the moment was right, she had put Richard in his place. One of the executives, a woman who had been quiet throughout the meeting, finally spoke up. Miss Williams, may I just say, I think this is the leadership we've been needing for a long time. Others nodded in agreement, because they knew exactly what kind of man Richard was. And now, it was his turn to face consequences. Richard looked around desperately, searching for any support, but he found none. The board members? Silent. The executives? Waiting. The employees? Watching him fall. Finally, with no way out, he exhaled sharply. Fine, he muttered. I'll resign. Vanessa nodded approvingly. Good choice. Now clean out your office. And with that, Richard Calloway walked out of the building for the last time. His arrogance? Gone. His career? Over. And Vanessa had just proven that real power doesn't come from a title, it comes from character. With Richard Calloway gone, the office felt different. Not tense. Not hostile. Not filled with arrogance. For the first time in years, people felt like they could breathe. But Vanessa? She wasn't here to celebrate one man's downfall. She was here to build something better. And that started now. The next morning, Vanessa called a company-wide meeting. Employees gathered in the main conference hall, whispering among themselves. Would she fire more people? Was she here to restructure everything? What kind of boss would she actually be? When Vanessa walked in, all eyes were on her. She took a deep breath and spoke. Good morning, everyone. I know yesterday was unexpected. But let me make something clear. This company is not just about profits. It is about people. It is about how we treat each other, how we grow together, and how we build something we can be proud of. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Vanessa continued. For too long, leadership here has been driven by intimidation. That ends today. This is going to be a workplace where respect is not optional, it is a requirement. Employees exchanged look zones filled with relief, hope, and even admiration, because for the first time, they had a leader who actually cared. Vanessa took a step forward, scanning the room. Then she dropped a bombshell. And to prove that I mean what I say, I have decided to make a change. Starting today, we will be increasing wages for all entry-level employees. Gasps. Wide eyes. Stunned silence. And then, applause. Vanessa smiled. This company succeeds because of the people on the ground, the ones who show up every day and work hard. It is time we recognize that. For the first time in company history, employees felt valued, and it was all because of Vanessa. Meanwhile, Richard Calloway's resignation didn't stay quiet for long. Someone in the company had leaked what really happened, and within hours, it had gone viral. Racist CEO insults employee, then learns she owns the company. Corporate justice? New boss teaches former CEO a lesson he'll never forget. Arrogance versus leadership. One woman's powerful stand against workplace discrimination. People loved the story. They called Vanessa a role model for modern leadership. Companies began reevaluating their own hiring practices. And Richard? Well, no one wanted to hire a disgraced CEO who had insulted his own boss. His career was finished. With Richard gone and the company heading in a new direction, Vanessa had one last thing to do. She walked into her new corner office, took a deep breath, and smiled. She had done it. She had proven that leadership isn't about power, it is about respect. And as she looked out at the city skyline, she knew this was just the beginning. Because real leadership isn't about tearing people down. It is about lifting them up. Vanessa's leadership shift sent shockwaves far beyond her own company. Employees, who once felt overlooked and undervalued, now saw a workplace where effort and dedication were truly recognized. Morale skyrocketed, and with it, so did productivity. People worked with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that their voices mattered. But the impact didn't stop there. News of Vanessa's bold leadership move spread across the corporate world. Companies, large and small, began reevaluating their hiring policies. Many introduced new training programs to ensure inclusivity and fairness in the workplace. Others implemented anonymous reporting systems to hold executives accountable for discriminatory behavior. Vanessa's influence also extended beyond her office walls. She became a sought-after speaker, traveling across the country to share her insights on ethical leadership, workplace culture, and diversity empowerment. Her speeches weren't just motivational. They were a wake-up call for businesses that had ignored these issues for too long. Leaders started to realize that true success wasn't just about revenue, it was about the people who made that success possible. By prioritizing respect and inclusivity, companies found that innovation flourished, employee retention improved, and workplace satisfaction reached new heights. What started as one woman's stand against arrogance and discrimination became a movement tune that challenged outdated corporate norms and redefined what it meant to be a leader in the modern world. Because this wasn't just about one CEO's mistake. It was about creating workplaces where everyone has a chance to thrive. And that was the kind of change that would last for generations. True leadership isn't about titles, it's about respect. If you believe in standing up for what's right, subscribe for more inspiring stories.